one of Colorado's greatest luxury resorts, built from stone and brick to outlast the centuries, burned to the ground in a single winter night. And still, no one understands how the flames moved so quickly. The Glenwood Springs Hotel was supposed to be fireproof, a fortress for the Gilded Age elite. Yet on December 14, 1945, guests barely escaped as walls collapsed and smoke swallowed everything. Was the disaster an accident, a product of hidden dangers, or something more sinister, insurance, sabotage, even a local curse? The official story never satisfied those who saw how fast that fire moved. So, how did a hotel made of stone burn down in a fire? In the heart of Glenwood Springs, framed by the steam of mineral springs and the rise of the Rockies, stood a hotel built to impress and to last. The Glenwood Springs Hotel opened its doors in the late 1880s, promising a level of luxury and permanence rare in the American West. Its walls were thick with brick and stone, a fortress meant to withstand the elements, time, and, so the brochures boasted, even fire. Inside, guests found a world apart. 75 spacious rooms, each furnished for comfort and style, with polished woodwork, velvet drapes, and the glow of electric lights. The hotel's elevator, considered a marvel in its day, whisked visitors between floors with a soft mechanical hum. There was a grand dining room where travelers dined on local trout and beef, and a reading parlor that overlooked the hot springs below. For decades, it was the place to be seen. Railroad barons, politicians, and Hollywood stars signed the guest register, their names still visible in faded ink on surviving pages. The hotel's fire alarm system, advertised as state-of-the-art, offered reassurance to guests worried about the dangers of frontier life. Local papers called the hotel fire-resistant and built for the ages, a claim repeated in every advertisement and travel guide. Weddings, business deals, and holiday balls filled the calendar. The Glenwood Springs Hotel was more than a building. It was a symbol of ambition and security, anchoring the town's reputation as a destination for health, wealth, and high society. All of this made what happened next not just a loss, but a shock, one that would echo through the valley for generations. December 14, 1945. Sometime before dawn, Charles McCarthy, the hotel manager, stepped into the corridor and caught the first whiff of smoke. He traced it to a small shop on the ground floor, flames already licking up the walls. McCarthy rushed to sound the alarm, pounding on doors as thick smoke rolled into the hallways. Upstairs, guests jolted from sleep found their rooms filling with haze. Some scrambled for shoes and coats, others ran barefoot, clutching children or suitcases. The fire alarm clanged, but the noise was quickly drowned out by the roar of the blaze. Police Chief Charles Wells was among the first on scene, leading officers through swirling smoke to pull guests from their rooms. He later told reporters he feared as many as 15 people were missing, though the true toll would prove smaller. In the confusion, guests poured down the main staircase, only to find the lobby already filling with flames. Some tried the rear exit, others climbed out windows onto the snowy street below. Firefighters arrived within minutes, dragging hoses through the crowd and aiming streams of water at the building's heart. But the fire leapt from floor to floor, fueled by wooden walls and decades-old carpets. Flames raced up the grand staircase, then burst through the roof. The heat was so fierce that crews turned their hoses on the adjacent Foster Hospital, desperate to keep the fire from spreading further. By 5 a.m., the hotel's brick front wall collapsed onto Main Street with a crash that echoed through the valley. Inside, the upper floors folded into themselves, bearing furniture, luggage, and any hope of rescue. 4 bodies would be recovered in the smoldering ruin, including Cornelia C. Brown of Eagle, Colorado. Others staggered into the cold, faces blackened, wrapped in borrowed blankets. By sunrise, nothing remained but the shell of a building and the stunned silence of a town that had lost its pride overnight. Stone and brick gave the Glenwood Springs Hotel its reputation for safety, but the real story was hidden inside the walls. Like many grand buildings from the 1880s, the hotel relied on a method called balloon framing. Long, continuous wooden studs stretched from the foundation all the way to the roof, creating hidden shafts behind the solid exterior. These vertical spaces, left open and unbroken by fire stops, acted like chimneys. Once flames found their way in, whether through a wiring short or a spark in a service shaft, fire and smoke could race upward, unchecked, from floor to floor. The hotel's interior was a patchwork of combustible materials. Thick wooden floors, open staircases, lath and plaster walls, and decades of wallpaper layered over wood. Public rooms were filled with heavy carpets, upholstered furniture, and curtains. Above the guest rooms, unfinished attic spaces and laundry chutes offered more hidden paths for fire to travel. Fire doors and modern compartmentalization weren't part of the original design, and there's no record of any being added later. Once the blaze breached the walls, the building's layout worked against those inside, and against the firefighters who tried to stop it. Electrical wiring posed its own dangers. The hotel opened before electricity was common, so early knob and tube wiring was likely upgraded in stages, with new wires threaded through old walls. Over time, these retrofits could leave hidden splices, overloaded circuits, and unprotected connections, perfect conditions for arcing or overheating. If a wire failed inside a wall cavity, flames could smolder unseen before bursting out with sudden force. When fire finally took hold, the result was a flashover. Heat and smoke surged through the open shafts, feeding on carpets, wood, and stored linens. The stone shell stood for a while, but as the wooden bones burned away, even the heaviest brick walls lost their support and crashed to the street. Without detailed blueprints or a full investigation report, the exact sequence of failure remains uncertain. What's clear is that the hotel's promise of permanence was undone from within by a combination of old construction, hidden spaces, and missed safeguards. No one ever produced a full official report on the Glenwood Springs Hotel fire. The city's summary blamed faulty wiring or a kitchen mishap, but the details were thin and the paperwork was never made public. What survived were fragments, short statements to the press, a few insurance forms, and the memories of those who watched the building fall. Rumors filled the gaps almost overnight. Some whispered that the hotel's owners had fallen behind on debts and that a generous insurance payout was worth more than a fading landmark. Others pointed to rivalries in the booming resort business, hinting that sabotage could not be ruled out. The idea of a natural gas leak surfaced too, though no one ever found evidence of underground faults or leaking pipes. The speed with which the ruins were cleared only deepened suspicion. Within days, workers hauled away bricks and burned timbers, leaving little for investigators or anyone else to examine. Survivors and townspeople wondered why the site was erased so quickly and why no deeper inquiry followed. Over time, the gaps in the record grew larger. Local folklore began to fill them. Some insisted that powerful men in town pressured officials to close the case and protect reputations. Others spoke of an old curse tied to the hot springs, stories handed down from the Ute people who once claimed the land was sacred and dangerous when disturbed. Today, the official story remains as incomplete as the hotel's foundations. No conclusive evidence of fraud, sabotage, or supernatural cause has ever surfaced, but the lack of answers and the speed with which the past was swept away left a lasting sense of unfinished business. In Glenwood Springs, the question of what really happened that night lingers in the empty spaces of the record, and in the stories people still tell when the subject of the old hotel comes up. On December 14, 1945, the Hotel Glenwood, a stone landmark once hailed as fire-resistant, was reduced to rubble in less than 6 hours. Official records cite faulty wiring or a kitchen accident, but no conclusive report was ever released, and key investigation files remain missing. Eyewitnesses described flames spreading with shocking speed, fueled by hidden wooden framing and outdated electrical systems. While technical evidence points to construction flaws, rumours of sabotage and cover-up persist, fueled by the hotel's rapid demolition and incomplete documentation. Today, no physical trace of the hotel remains, only photographs, news clippings, and survivor accounts. The unanswered question endures: how could a fortress of stone vanish so completely overnight? The mystery of the Glenwood Springs Hotel fire stands as a reminder that even the grandest structures can hide fatal weaknesses, and that sometimes history's full truth remains just out of reach.